I noticed it when the sound of the heater stopped. Not the usual click when it shuts off, just silence. Too sudden, too clean. I was standing in the kitchen, barefoot on the cold tile, holding a glass of water. The house had been making its normal nighttime noises all evening. The low hum of the heater, the faint ticking in the walls. Somewhere far off, a car passing on the main road. Then it all dropped away at once. I stayed still, the glass hovering near my mouth, listening. The silence didn't feel empty. It felt occupied. I remember thinking it was strange how clearly I could hear my own breathing, slow, even, louder than it should have been. The kind of awareness you usually only get when someone else is nearby and quiet. I didn't move right away. I didn't want to break whatever balance had settled in the room. The kitchen light above the sink buzzed faintly, casting a soft yellow circle on the counter. Beyond that, the rest of the house was dark. I stood there longer than made sense, waiting for the heater to click back on. It didn't. Eventually, I set the glass down and leaned my hands against the counter. The surface was cold, smooth, grounding. I told myself it was just the thermostat. Old systems do that. They pause, they misread the temperature. Still, I didn't turn around. The feeling wasn't fear. Not exactly. It was a mild pressure, like the moment before someone speaks behind you. A sense of anticipation without direction. When I finally did turn, there was nothing there. Just the dark hallway leading back toward the bedrooms. The door to the spare room was closed, as always. The bathroom door stood open, a thin strip of light spilling out from the nightlight near the sink. Everything looked normal. That should have been the end of it. I've lived in that house for 5 years. A small, single-story place in a quiet, suburban neighborhood. Tree-lined streets, lawns trimmed short, the kind of area where nothing ever really happens. I bought it after my divorce, mostly because it was close to work and cheap enough that I didn't have to think too hard about it. Most nights were the same. Dinner alone, a little television, maybe reading in bed until I fell asleep. Quiet routines, predictable. That night hadn't been different until it was. I finished my water, rinsed the glass, and turned off the kitchen light. As I walked down the hallway, I noticed the temperature right away. The air felt heavier, cooler than it should have been. Not dramatically cold, just enough that my arms prickled slightly. I paused near the bathroom and glanced inside. The mirror above the sink caught the edge of my reflection. My face looked tired, neutral, the way it always does at the end of the day. Nothing seemed out of place. I kept walking. In the bedroom, I changed into a sweatshirt and sweatpants, then sat on the edge of the bed to put on socks. The room was quiet except for the faint rustle of fabric. Outside, the streetlight cast long shadows across the curtains, barely moving. That's when I heard it, a sound from the hallway. Not footsteps, not quite. More like someone shifting their weight on carpet. A soft compression, then stillness. I froze with one sock halfway on. The sound hadn't come from the bathroom. It was closer to the living room end of the hall, near the front door. I listened. Nothing else followed. I stayed seated for a long time, my foot hovering just above the floor. I told myself it could have been the house settling, wood contracting, pipes adjusting. Houses make sounds, especially at night. Still, I didn't move. When I finally stood, I did it slowly, deliberately, keeping my breathing steady. I walked to the bedroom door and stood there, hand resting on the frame, listening again. The hallway was empty. I turned off the bedroom light and got into bed. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, counting breaths. The heater still hadn't turned back on. The house felt too quiet, like it was holding something in. Sleep came eventually, but it was shallow. I woke up several times during the night without knowing why. Each time the same thought surfaced before I could stop it. Something is off. In the morning, the heater was running again. Warm air flowed through the vents like nothing had happened. Sunlight filled the kitchen. The neighborhood outside looked unchanged. I went to work, distracted but functional. The day passed without incident. By the time I drove home, the unease from the night before felt distant, almost embarrassing. That evening, I made dinner and watched television. The heater hummed steadily. The house felt normal again, almost. Later, as I stood in the living room turning off lights, I noticed the front door. It was unlocked. I stared at it for a few seconds, my hand still on the light switch. I was careful about locking the door. Always had been. It was muscle memory at this point. Lock, check, tug once. I stepped closer and turned the knob. It opened easily. I stood there in the doorway, looking out at the porch. The porch light was on. The steps were empty. The yard beyond was still. I locked the door and stood there longer than necessary, listening to the quiet outside. That night I dreamed of standing in the hallway, watching a shadow move across the wall. When I woke up, the heater was off again. This time I didn't go back to sleep. Over the next few days, small things began to add up. Nothing dramatic, just inconsistencies. The bathroom door left open when I was sure I'd closed it. The porch light on when I didn't remember turning it on. A faint smell in the living room, like cold air that had been outside too long. I checked the thermostat. It was working fine. No errors, no odd settings. I checked the doors and windows every night. All locked, all secure. Still the feeling lingered. The sound returned on the fourth night. That same soft shift in the hallway. That same sense of presence without movement. This time it came from closer to the bedroom. I didn't get up. I stayed in bed, eyes open, listening to the silence that followed. It felt like waiting. After that, I started leaving lights on at night. Not all of them. Just enough to soften the dark. I slept with the bedroom door closed. The heater cycled on and off more irregularly now, sometimes stopping for long stretches. The temperature drops were subtle but noticeable. The house felt colder than it should have, especially in the hallway. One evening, I stood in the kitchen again, almost exactly where I had been the first night. The same light buzzing overhead, the same quiet pressing in around me. This time, when the heater stopped, I didn't wait. I turned toward the hallway immediately. The bathroom light was on. I was certain I'd turned it off earlier. I walked toward it slowly, my footsteps soft against the carpet. As I reached the doorway, I paused. The mirror showed the empty hallway behind me. Then, very slowly, something shifted at the edge of the reflection. Not a shape, not a figure, just a subtle darkening, like a shadow settling where it hadn't been before. I didn't move. I watched my own reflection breathe, watched my shoulders rise and fall. The shadow in the mirror stayed still. I reached out and turned off the bathroom light. The darkness swallowed the reflection instantly. I went to bed after that without looking into the mirror again. That night I woke up to the sound of the front door, not opening, just adjusting. A soft movement, like someone touching the handle. I lay there, heart steady, listening. There was no follow-up sound, no footsteps, no door closing. Just the heater humming quietly again. In the morning, the front door was still locked. I didn't tell anyone about it. Not friends, not coworkers. It didn't feel like something that could be explained properly. The words would make it sound bigger than it was, or smaller. Instead, I paid attention. I started noticing how the house felt when I entered it after work. Some evenings it felt empty. Other evenings it felt expectant, like something had already been there for a while. The mirrors bothered me more now, not because they showed anything wrong, but because they showed nothing at all. One night I stood in the hallway and watched myself in the bathroom mirror for a long time. My reflection matched me perfectly. No delay, no distortion. Still, I couldn't shake the sense that it was watching me back. The sound in the hallway stopped after a while. The heater returned to normal. The door stayed locked. Life settled into a new version of normal. But I never stopped checking. Even now, when the house goes quiet too suddenly, I feel it again. That same pressure, that same sense of something pausing, listening, waiting for me to notice. Nothing has happened since. That's what makes it worse, because whatever it was didn't need to rush. It already knows the house, and it knows I'm paying attention.